Have you ever stepped outside and just felt, wow, it's like an oven out here? That really heavy, almost suffocating heat.
Yeah, where even breathing feels like hard work.
Exactly. Or maybe you've lived through a recent heat wave, that relentless day after day warmth, just desperate for it to break.
It's a feeling that's becoming way more common for billions of people globally. It's a pretty stark reminder that we're living in a new climate reality.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today, extreme heat. We want to unpack what it really is, its growing impact around the world, who's hit hardest.
And crucially, what practical things you can actually do to cope. Plus, how communities are trying to build more long-term resilience.
Right. Our mission here is to take all this information from the latest scientific reports, expert talks, government safety guides, even community advice and state action plans, and distill it down for you. Give you a comprehensive understanding.
And just a quick note for maybe listeners learning English or really anyone who likes clarity. We'll pause sometimes to explain key words. Understanding the terms really helps grasp the whole picture.
Definitely. We want you to leave feeling informed and hopefully a bit more prepared.
Okay, so let's get into this new reality. The numbers from the sources we looked at are, well, they're pretty serious.
Yeah, take the period from May 1st, 2024 to May 1st, 2025. It wasn't just a hot year. It covered Earth's hottest year and the hottest January ever recorded.
And what's really fascinating, scientifically speaking, is how clearly experts can now link these events to climate change. They use something called climate change attribution.
Attribution. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
So attribution is basically determining the cause, the origin of something. In this case, was an extreme heat event made more likely or more intense because of human-caused climate change?
Gotcha. And how do they figure that out reliably?
Well, they use peer-reviewed methodology. That sounds technical, but it just means their scientific methods are rigorously checked and approved by other experts in the field. It ensures the findings are sound.
Okay, so it's solid science. And what's the big takeaway from this attribution science?
The main finding, and it's pretty unequivocal in the reports, is that human activity, climate change, is making dangerous extreme heat last longer and happen more often for billions of people.
Billions. That's hard to wrap your head around.
It is. To give you a more tangible sense of it, and by tangible I mean something real, something you can almost feel or easily grasp, think about this. Over those last 12 months we mentioned,
Yeah.
a staggering 4 billion people experienced at least 30 days of extreme heat. That's nearly half the world's population.
Wow. 30 days or more.
And get this, in 195 countries and territories, climate change at least doubled the number of those extreme heat days compared to what you'd expect in a world without climate change.
Doubled. That's a massive difference.
Right. Huge. And it's not just a general background thing. The reports identified 67 significant extreme heat events during that time. Every single one of them was found to be influenced by climate change.
Every single one.
Yep. They use tools like the Climate Shift Index, the CSI, which helps quantify that influence. It really underlines the escalation of the problem. Escalation meaning, this steady increase in intensity, in magnitude. It's not just hot, it's getting worse.
Okay, so it's getting hotter, more frequent, and lasting longer. This naturally leads to the question, who bears the brunt of this? Who is most vulnerable?
Right. And vulnerable here means more susceptible to harm or danger from the heat. The sources are very clear on this.
Who are we talking about specifically?
Several groups really stand out. Children, particularly newborns in their first week, they face higher mortality risk. The elderly, sadly, have the highest mortality risk overall during heat waves.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. Then you have outdoor laborers, people working in construction, agriculture, often without enough protection. Pregnant individuals face a higher risk of preterm birth, which is giving birth before 37 weeks. That has serious health implications for the baby.
And it's not just about physical condition, right? Socioeconomic factors play a role.
Absolutely. Economically disadvantaged people and those experiencing homelessness are significantly more vulnerable. They often lack access to air conditioning, maybe live in housing that heats up easily, or simply can't escape the heat. The risk isn't shared equally at all.
That's a critical point. Now, you mentioned something earlier, or rather, the sources highlight something really important. The cumulative nature of heat.
Yes, this is so crucial. Cumulative means increasing or growing by adding things up over time.
So it's not just about surviving one incredibly hot day.
Exactly. That single record-breaking day gets the headline, sure. But it's the relentless day-after-day heat, the duration of a heat wave, that really drives a lot of the illness and death. Your body just doesn't get a break. It can't recover properly.
That makes so much sense. It shifts the focus from just getting through the day to the overall strain on health.
Right. And it demands more proactive, sustained thinking about solutions, not just reacting when it gets bad.
And the impacts aren't just physical, are they?
No, not at all. Extreme heat takes a toll on mental wellness, too. Studies link it to higher rates of suicide and even violence. Plus, it can trigger or worsen climate anxiety, that feeling of dread about the future of the planet. It really affects our whole well-being.
Okay, so the picture is clear, it's serious, it's unequal, and it affects us deeply. Let's pivot to solutions. What immediate practical things can people do right now? Let's draw on those National Weather Service guidelines.
Okay, first up, activity. The key is to slow down. Reduce, eliminate, or reschedule any strenuous activities.
Yeah.
Anything that takes a lot of effort, like heavy exercise or yard work, do it in the cooler parts of the day, early morning or late evening.
And for vulnerable folks, kids, seniors, people with health issues.
They should really stay in the coolest place they can find, period.
Makes sense. What about clothing? Simple advice, but effective. Wear lightweight, loose-fitting, light-colored clothing. Light colors reflect heat instead of absorbing it.
Okay, and diet, does that matter?
It does. Stick to light, easy-to-digest foods. Think fruits, salads. Heavy meals make your body work harder, generating more heat. And obviously, keep perishable foods cool in a cooler or fridge.
Hydration seems obvious, but what's the specific advice?
Drink plenty of fluids, but specifically non-alcoholic decaffeinated ones. Water is best.
Yeah.
And don't wait until you feel thirsty by then. You might already be getting dehydrated.
Good tip. Any caveats?
Yeah. Two important ones. If a doctor has told you to limit fluids for some reason, check with them first. And don't just start taking salt tablets unless a doctor specifically tells you to. Usually you get enough salt from your food.
Right. What about actively cooling down?
Cool showers or baths work wonders. And minimize direct sun exposure. Sunburn is bad for lots of reasons, but it also reduces your body's ability to dissipate heat.
Dissipate, meaning?
To get rid of it, basically. To scatter or make it disappear. A sunburned body holds on to heat more. Okay, those are great tips. But what if you don't have air conditioning? That's a reality for many people. The community sources had some clever ideas.
Yeah, some really practical stuff. First, think about managing your home. Get to know how the sun moves across your house during the day. Use thermal curtains, or even just heavy dark ones on windows that get direct sun, and keep them closed.
Block out the heat source.
Exactly. Then, think airflow. If it's cooler outside, like early morning, open windows on opposite sides of the house to get a cross breeze. But once it starts heating up outside, close everything up tight to trap the cooler air inside.
Keep the cool in, keep the hot out.
Right, and keep your house dark. Turn off lights you don't need, unplug electronics that generate heat, TVs, computers, all that stuff adds up. If you have a basement, that's usually the coolest spot.
Good idea. What if you can't cool the whole house?
Focus on one room. Make one space your cool refuge.
Okay. And for personal cooling without AC?
Yeah.
Any DIY tricks?
Oh yeah, a classic one. Freeze a gallon jug of water. Some people say add salt so it freezes colder and lasts longer, and put it in front of a box fan. Creates a nice little cool breeze zone.
Ah, the homemade swamp cooler effect.
Sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Also, sleep with minimal bedding, maybe just a sheet, or nothing at all if you're comfortable. Keep ice water right next to you.
Quick cool showers frequently.
Definitely. Hop in a cool shower whenever you feel overheated, then sit near a fan while you're still damp. You can also wring out washcloths, freeze them, and put them on your neck or wrists. Freezer packs work too, just wrap it in a thin towel first.
Little things can make a difference.
They really can. Even carrying a small portable USB fan can help. And remember, your body can acclimate over a few days.
Acclimate.
Yeah, it means to get used to new conditions, like a hotter climate. It takes time, maybe a few days to a week, but your body does adjust somewhat, so try to manage your expectations.
And if it's just unbearable at home?
Use public cool spaces.
Yeah.
Libraries, shopping malls, movie theaters, anywhere with AC that you can hang out for a few hours to get relief.
Crucial information. It's also important to understand official warnings, right? What do those mean?
Yes, definitely. The National Weather Service has different levels. An excessive heat watch means conditions could become dangerous in the next, say, 2 to 5 days. It's a heads up.
Time to prepare.
Exactly. Then there's an excessive heat warning. That's more serious.
Mm-hmm.
It means dangerous heat is expected within 1 to 3 days, and there's a high certainty. A heat advisory is similar, 1 to 3 days out, still dangerous, but maybe slightly less extreme than a full warning. but still needs to be taken seriously.
Okay. And what about the heat index? We hear that term a lot.
Right, that's the feels like temperature. It combines the actual air temperature with the humidity. Because when it's humid, your sweat doesn't evaporate as easily, which is your body's main way of cooling down. So 95 degrees Fahrenheit might feel like 105 if the humidity is high. It's a better measure of the stress on your body.
That's vital to understand. And recognizing heat illness symptoms is critical for knowing when to act. What's the difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke?
Okay, heat exhaustion is serious, but less severe than stroke. Symptoms include feeling faint or dizzy, sweating heavily, skin feeling cool, pale, or clammy, maybe nausea, vomiting, a rapid but weak pulse, muscle cramps.
What do you do for heat exhaustion?
Get the person to a cooler place immediately. Have them sip water if they're fully conscious. A cool shower or applying cool compresses can help lower their body temperature.
Okay, but heat stroke is different.
Very different, and it's a life-threatening emergency. You need to call 911 right away. The key signs are different, often a throbbing headache, confusion. Crucially, the person might stop sweating, and their skin will feel red, hot, and dry.
No sweating. That's a big warning sign.
Huge. Their body temperature will be very high, over 103 Fahrenheit or 39.4 Celsius. They might have nausea or vomiting, a rapid, strong pulse, and could lose consciousness.
What's the immediate action for suspected heat stroke while waiting for help?
Move them to a cooler environment. Try to cool them down rapidly with whatever you have, cool cloths, a cool bath. But importantly, do not give them anything to drink. Their swallowing reflex might be impaired. Get professional medical help ASAP.
That's incredibly important advice. Thank you. Now, shifting focus slightly, what about our pets? They're part of the family too.
Absolutely. And our sources really emphasize this. Pets are just as susceptible to heat illness, and heat stroke can kill them too.
Are some pets more at risk than others?
Yes. Animals wearing muzzles, pets that are overweight or large breeds, those with a very thick or long fur, and especially brachycephalic breeds.
Brachycephalic.
What are those? Those are the breeds with the short, pushed-in faces, like bulldogs, pugs, Boston Terriers, and Persian cats. Their airways are naturally restricted, making it much harder for them to pant effectively to cool down.
Ah, okay. Any other risk factors?
Pets with existing heart or lung problems or tracheal issues are also much more vulnerable.
So, what warning signs should pet owners look for?
Excessive panting is a big one, or difficulty breathing. For cats, open-mouthed panting is not normal. It's a sign of distress. Increased heart rate, lots of drooling, mild weakness or lethargy, just being really tired or lacking energy.
Lethargy, okay. Anything more severe?
Yes, it can progress to stupor, which is like a state of near unconsciousness or even collapse. Also, excessive thirst, vomiting, diarrhea. Check their gums. They should be nice and pink and moist. If they're dry, sticky, pale, muddy looking, or bright red, that's abnormal. Bruising or bleeding can also occur in severe cases.
Wow, okay, so prevention is clearly the best approach. What are the key prevention tips?
Number one, absolutely critical. Never leave a pet in a parked car, not even for a minute, not even with windows cracked. Temperatures inside a car can skyrocket incredibly fast.
Cannot stress that enough.
Definitely. Always provide fresh, cool water, maybe in a bowl they can't easily tip over.
Mm.
Avoid intense exercise. When it's hot and humid, stick to early mornings or late evenings.
Bring them inside during the hottest parts of the day.
Absolutely. If they have to be outside, make sure there's plenty of shade. And remember, the shade moves as the sun does. Protect their paws from hot asphalt or concrete. If you can't hold your hand on it for 5 seconds, it's too hot for their paws.
Good rule of thumb. What about grooming? Should you shave them?
Actually, no. Don't shave off their entire coat. A pet's coat provides some insulation from heat and protects against sunburn. Maybe a trim for very thick-coated dogs. But consult a groomer or vet. For light-colored pets, use pet-safe sunscreen on areas like ear tips and noses.
Okay. And if you do suspect heat stroke in a pet,
Call your vet or the nearest emergency animal clinic immediately. While you're preparing to go, start cooling them safely. Use cool water, not ice cold, which can cause shock on their head, ears, paws, and belly. Get air flowing over them with a fan or car AC on the way to the vet. Fast action is crucial.
great advice for keeping our furry friends safe. Now, looking beyond individual actions, communities and governments are starting to tackle this more systemically, right? Building resilience.
Exactly. Resilience, meaning the ability to bounce back, to cope with and recover from difficulties like extreme heat. We looked at California's State Action Plan as an example, protecting Californians from extreme heat.
California's definitely feeling the heat. Temperatures there have already risen over 1 degree Fahrenheit, and projections show more warming to come.
Right. And their plan is comprehensive. hitting it from multiple angles. It has 4 main tracks. First is public awareness and notification.
So getting the word out effectively.
Yeah, using campaigns that work for different cultures and languages, involving trusted community leaders, and improving those early warning systems we talked about.
Okay. What else is in that track?
It includes things like developing better tools to see which communities are most vulnerable and supporting syndromic surveillance systems.
Syndromic surveillance. What's that?
It's basically monitoring health data in near real time, like tracking emergency room visits for heat-related symptoms. It helps public health officials spot emerging problems quickly and respond faster.
I see. Very proactive. What's the second track?
Community services in response. This focuses on protecting those vulnerable groups, like outdoor workers, ensuring local governments have heat response plans, funding projects for adapting to heat, and making sure disaster plans include people experiencing homelessness.
And training first responders.
Yes, training them to recognize and treat the diverse range of heat illnesses they might encounter.
Makes sense. Third track.
Built environment resilience. This is about the physical infrastructure around us. Things like making transportation systems more heat resilient, updating building codes.
How so? Like better insulation?
That plus things like new ventilation standards, promoting cool color technology for roofs and walls, basically. Paints and materials that reflect sunlight and stay cooler. Also encouraging better window shading and pushing for local rules that require new buildings to have cool roofs or more green space.
Cool roofs and green space. That leads into the last track, right?
Exactly. The fourth track is nature-based solutions. This is all about using nature to help cool things down, planting more trees, creating parks and green spaces, restoring streams in urban areas.
How does that help specifically?
These actions directly combat the urban heat island effect. That's the phenomenon where cities are significantly hotter than surrounding rural areas because of all the concrete, asphalt, and lack of vegetation absorbing and retaining heat.
Ah, so more trees and green spaces literally cooled the city down.
Yes. Promoting these nature-based solutions, using ecosystems strategically to tackle problems like heat, is a really key long-term strategy for building resilience.
It really paints a picture of a multi-layered approach, from individual actions all the way up to rethinking how we build our cities.
It has to be. Our sources make it clear that tackling extreme heat needs action on all fronts: personal readiness, community support, and large-scale systemic changes.
So wrapping this up, what's the key takeaway for you, our listener? Being informed like you are now after this deep dive is genuinely the first step. It helps you prepare, adapt.
And remember that every action counts. Whether it's checking on an elderly neighbor during a heat wave, putting up darker curtains, or advocating for more trees in your community park, it all contributes to building that collective resilience.
There was a quote from one of the experts, Lisa Patel, that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
She said, "This may be the coolest summer of our lifetime moving forward if we don't do more to get off fossil fuels."
Wow. That's a sobering thought, but also a powerful call to action, isn't it?
It really is. So maybe the final thought for you is, what does this deep dive mean for you personally? How can you use these insights? What's happening locally in your area to build heat resilience? Worth looking into. Stay cool, stay informed, and think about the part you can play.